Hi, my name is Jamie Chriqui. I'm with the Bridging the Gap program at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I'm here today to talk to you about what we know about the impact of state laws related to walking and biking to school on elementary school level policies and practices on walking and biking to school. The reason why we care about this is that the physical activity guidelines for Americans recommended that children receive 60 minutes of physical activity a day, with as much of that time spent in moderate to vigorous physical activity as possible. One of the things that the guidelines recommends is that children could get some of that physical activity time through rapid walking and through bicycling to school as part of active transit to school. However, data from the 2009 National Household Travel Survey show us that very few children are actually walking and biking to school at the elementary level. In fact, in 2009, only 12% of children walked to school and only 1% biked to school. Those numbers are drastically reduced from what we saw 4 decades ago. So we were interested to see if there were any state policy levers out there that could facilitate or inhibit children's walking and biking to school and the policies and practices that exist at elementary schools throughout the United States. One of the things that we looked at was the extent to which state laws required crossing guards, sidewalks, traffic calming measures, and speed zones around schools. And we also looked to see the extent to which there were minimum busing distance policies that required that students who lived within a certain distance or away from school from a certain distance be bused to school. What we found was that certain policies, particularly those related to sidewalks and traffic calming, were more likely to facilitate children walking and biking to school, and principals reported less barriers to children walking and biking to school if the state had a law that required crossing guards and that required traffic calming devices. Interestingly enough, we also found that states that had laws that required busing for students who live less than 1 mile away from school actually reported less children walking and biking to school and were more likely to report 0 students actually walking and biking to school. So it's those state laws that have the lowest minimum busing distance requirements that seem to be inhibiting children walking and biking to school. What we did not look at, and what we do need to learn more about, is whether or not those states are areas where there are a few sidewalks available to children walking and biking to school, because that could facilitate some of what's going on. The data from our study are particularly important for state policymakers, particularly in departments of education that will set these standards, but they also would be very relevant to school district superintendents because many of the infrastructure requirements that occur at the local level are occurring at the local levels in school districts throughout the United States. It's through school districts that they're putting together policies and programs to support crossing guards, to install traffic calming devices, and to create traffic safety zones or speed zones. Furthermore, a lot of districts do establish their own minimum busing distance policies, and while the states, almost half of the states have minimum busing distance policies, some districts establish their own minimum busing distance policies outside of what the state does, if the state even does something. So there's plenty of opportunity for school district policymakers in particular to really take an active stand in helping to facilitate children's walking and biking to school. I think there are a number of partnerships that could be important to continuing to facilitate elementary children walking and biking to school, not just amongst policymakers, but also involving transportation officials, urban planners, public health officials, active living researchers. It's going to require a concerted effort to really do what we can to increase our numbers back to where they were 4 decades ago and ensure that more children who are physically able to walk and bike to school have the opportunity to do so. Thank you.